You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken Tech for your ears.
Imagine you spend months, really pouring your soul into building this perfect luxury boutique.
Oh, I can picture it.
Right. The window displays are absolutely gorgeous. The lighting is, calibrated to make everything look incredibly expensive. And you get this perfectly crafted brand story playing softly in the background. So you finally open the doors, and the only quote-unquote customers who walk in are blindfolded personal shoppers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They don't look at the displays. They literally can't hear the music. They just aggressively scan the barcodes, grab exactly what they need, and walk out to report back to their actual clients.
I mean, that is a terrifying, but honestly, an entirely accurate image of exactly where the internet is right now.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah.
So our stack of sources for this one, it's a collection of cutting-edge marketing, tech, and growth newsletters from April 2026.
Some really fascinating stuff in there.
Totally. And it's all pointing to this massive, frankly, silent shift that's happening right under our feet. The primary audience for our work, our products, our content, it's just no longer human.
It really isn't.
Today, we are going to figure out how you can survive and honestly thrive when AI agents become the ultimate gatekeepers to your customers. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, so we are really looking at a fundamental paradigm shift in who we are actually building for.
Right.
This whole idea centers around a concept from Elena Verna in our sources. She calls it the non-human ICP, or ideal customer profile.
Which is such a wild concept to wrap your head around at first.
It really is. Because for decades, every piece of marketing, every landing page, every product strategy, it was all explicitly designed to persuade the psychology of a human brain.
Make them feel something, right?
Exactly. But increasingly, AI agents are the primary users that are actually navigating the web. They're the ones evaluating the sauce tools, surfacing the answers.
And an agent does not care about a beautiful user interface.
Not at all.
It doesn't care about your clever onboarding flow, and it certainly isn't moved by an emotional brand narrative.
No, it just wants the data.
It wants fast, reliable, structured outputs. And there's this perfect example of this in our notes from a company called Buffer.
Oh, yeah, the Buffer example is brilliant.
Right, so they didn't just redesign their pricing page to look prettier for human eyes. They actually went and built a machine-readable markdown file, literally hosted as pricing.md.
And the underlying mechanism there is just crucial to understand. When an AI scrapes a traditional web page, it has to parse through all this messy HTML, the CSS styling.
Yeah, the pop-ups.
Oh, the pop-ups are the worst. Interactive sliders, all of that, just to find the actual price of a product.
Yeah.
But by stripping all of that away, offering a simple markdown file, Buffer is basically serving up raw, perfectly structured data on a silver platter.
It's like a VIP entrance for the AI.
Exactly. It's a direct response to this whole elms.txt movement.
Oh, right. We saw that in the newsletters.
Yeah, which is this growing standard where websites provide just a plain text file specifically designed to feed large language models the most important information about a site. It completely bypasses all the visual clutter.
So instead of a human scrolling around trying to figure out, okay, which tier has which feature, an AI agent just instantly reads the markdown file.
Right.
It compares it mathematically against, say, 3 other tools and delivers a definitive answer to its human user in literally seconds.
Which means we have to completely rethink the entire concept of product detail pages, or PDPs.
Yeah, the sources highlight that a modern PDP can no longer just be a digital brochure.
No, it has to act as they call it a structured entity. It is essentially juggling 3 very distinct jobs all at the exact same time.
Okay, break that down for us. What are the 3 jobs?
So first, it still needs traditional SEO for the human who's just searching Google.
Makes sense.
But second, it also needs incredibly concise FAQ-style answers. And third, it needs perfectly consistent product attributes.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning structured data so an AI can extract it without having to guess what your clever marketing phrase actually means. If you aren't clearly stating what the product is, what it does, and exactly who it is for in plain text, the AI simply won't include you in its results.
It's like cooking a gourmet meal for a food critic, right? But instead of the critic tasting it, you have to feed it to their robot butler.
I love that analogy.
And the robot butler has literally no sense of taste. It just has a scanner that checks the exact nutritional macros.
Yes, exactly.
And if the macros aren't perfectly labeled in plain text, the robot just throws the food in the trash before the human critic ever even sees the plate.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. The gatekeeper evaluates structure, it doesn't evaluate flavor.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. If the agent is entirely ignoring the UI and just scanning for data, why are we even bothering to make anything look good for the human at all?
Right, I hear you.
I mean, it sounds like we should just throw away good design and branding entirely and build internet pages that look like literal spreadsheets.
And, a lot of companies are falling into that exact trap right now. But it's a fatal mistake.
Okay.
Why? Because human UI absolutely still matters. The human is still the one ultimately experiencing the product, right? They're making that final emotional connection.
Right.
The distinction here is that distribution now relies on agents. Think of protocols like MCP.
The Model Context Protocol.
Exactly. MCP acts like a universal translator plugin.
Right.
It allows an AI to securely connect to and read a company's data.
Okay.
So if your product isn't accessible to an AI through something like MCP, the agent won't surface it. And if the agent doesn't surface it,
The human never gets the chance to see your beautiful design in the first place.
bingo. You have to pass the machine's structural evaluation first, literally just to get an audience with the human.
Okay, but if the new rule is that we have to structure all our information for robots to read using markdown files and perfectly consistent attributes, it feels like we are walking right into a massive danger zone.
We definitely are.
How do you feed the machine perfectly structured data without sounding exactly like a machine yourself?
Well, the sources introduce two interconnected concepts that describe this exact threat. They call them the bland tax and the digital yawn.
I absolutely love the phrase bland tax. It's so evocative. Explain how this actually penalizes someone.
Sure. So the bland tax is basically an invisible penalty that AI systems apply to generic, repetitive content.
Okay.
When an AI generates an answer for a user, it's reading hundreds of pages on a given topic and aggregating the information.
Right, synthesizing it all.
Exactly. So if your content lacks originality, like if you are just repeating the exact same 5 best practices for leadership or the same generic software features as everyone else, the AI doesn't cite you.
Oh, wow.
It just absorbs your generic points into its single summarized answer without any attribution whatsoever. Your brand identity is completely erased.
You literally get taxed out of existence just for being boring.
Precisely.
And the downstream effect of that is what the sources call the digital yawn, which honestly is so relatable.
Oh, completely.
It's not that audiences are suffering from ad fatigue. I mean, that's an old problem.
Yeah, ad fatigue is old news.
Right, they are suffering from cultural exhaustion. We are flooding digital channels with meaningless, low-value AI-generated content. People aren't just tired of seeing ads. They are tired of feeling absolutely nothing when they read them because it all sounds exactly the same.
And the data backing this up is incredibly nuanced. There's a study in our sources from AirOps.
Yes, the ChatGPT study.
Right. They analyzed over 16,000 ChatGPT queries across 10 different industries just to see what actually gets cited by the AI. They basically wanted to know what bypasses the bland tax.
The numbers on that study are wild. I have them right here.
Go for it.
So ChatGPT cited pages with headlines that directly answered the query 41% of the time.
Right.
But pages with loosely related, maybe more clever or teasing headlines, they were cited only 29% of the time.
Huge drop-off.
Massive. And the kicker is that traditional domain authority, like how big or important your website historically is, it predicted absolutely nothing about whether the AI would actually cite you.
Yeah, the factors driving AI citations are now entirely uncoupled from traditional SEO. Big brands, they can't just buy their way to the top of an AI response with domain authority anymore.
But hold on, I'm looking at this AirOps data showing that AI wants highly direct, straightforward, almost clinical headlines. Isn't that inherently bland?
I see where you're going with this.
Right. If we tell everyone listening to write ultra-direct, purely functional headlines, are we just telling them to create the exact boring content that triggers the bland tax and causes the digital yawn?
So this is where we really have to separate two very different concepts. There's structural clarity and then there's substantive repetition.
Okay, break that down for me. What is the difference in actual practice?
Structural clarity means your headline and your markdown files directly state what you are talking about. No clever puns in the title.
No clickbait.
No vague teasing to get a click, exactly. You tell the machine exactly what the document contains.
Yeah.
But substantive repetition means the actual ideas inside that document are the same as everyone else's. You avoid the bland tax not by hiding your topic behind a mysterious headline, but by having a genuinely unique, highly expert perspective on the topic once the AI actually starts reading the text.
Huh.
You have to be structurally predictable so the machine can find you, but intellectually original so the machine needs to cite you to answer the user's question.
That makes so much sense. So mere functionality gets you erased. You have to inject originality. But I mean, where does that originality actually come from in a world where AI can write a blog post in like 3 seconds?
It comes from deep human expertise and what the sources refer to as opinionated design.
Opinionated design. The data on software creation in the sources paints just a crazy picture of why this is so necessary now.
The April 2026 numbers.
Yes. In April 2026, new app launches jumped 104% year over year.
Which is just staggering.
It is. And the reason is that AI coding tools have made building software incredibly fast and incredibly cheap. People without any technical backgrounds are just spinning up entire mobile apps over a weekend.
Right. And when AI can build a functional app in 60 seconds, the fact that it works is no longer a selling point. Mere functionality is literally just the absolute baseline now.
The sources point to design tools like Figma to prove this too.
Oh, the user demographic.
Yeah, Figma users are now 66% non-designers.
Wow.
People who don't know the first thing about color theory are using AI to generate user interfaces.
Sure.
But the problem is, when AI generates a design based on its training data, it produces an average of everything it has ever seen.
Right. It looks fine.
It looks perfectly average. It's the mathematical definition of generic. It's like software used to be about the sheer engineering feat of building the house, right? Just getting the walls up and the plumbing working was a massive achievement that people would pay for. Now that AI builds the house in 60 seconds, the only value left to the buyer is how uniquely and boldly we decorate the living room.
That visualizes the shift perfectly. The engineering is completely commoditized, the perspective is the premium,
Yeah?
and this need for an opinionated identity, it applies to content just as much as software. Look at how algorithms are shifting to hunt for this. The sources highlight LinkedIn's 360 Brew algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
It now actively prioritizes semantic signals of real expertise over cheap engagement bait.
Wait, what exactly is a semantic signal in this context?
No,
Because algorithms don't actually read, right? They just process math. How does math detect expertise?
That's a great question. A semantic signal is basically a pattern of language that indicates deep, real-world experience.
Okay.
A generic AI post will use broad buzzwords like synergy or optimized workflows. We've all seen them.
The worst.
But a post written by someone with true expertise will use hyper-specific terminology. They will discuss niche edge cases, they will mention highly specific metrics, or they'll talk about a specific failure they experienced on a random Tuesday in a warehouse.
Right.
The algorithm looks for the density of those specific experiential vocabulary choices.
And the stats show it really works.
Yeah.
I mean, only about 3% of employees actually post on LinkedIn, but they drive roughly 30% of total brand engagement.
Because audiences are just starving for actual professional insight. 64% of hidden decision makers explicitly prefer thought leadership from real humans over glossy marketing materials.
Makes sense.
The algorithm isn't looking for broad advice anymore. It's actively hunting for that deep, specific, opinionated experience.
There was a copywriting tip in the sources that proves exactly how powerful this is. The advice was to explicitly admit a competitor's real advantage in your own marketing copy.
Which is a deeply opinionated tactic that most traditional marketers would be absolutely terrified to try.
Right. But the logic is brilliant. By calmly admitting what a competitor does well, you instantly lower the reader's resistance. You don't sound like a desperate salesperson. You sound like an objective, confident expert.
Exactly.
It builds immense trust. And once you have that trust, you reframe the comparison. You shift the conversation away from the feature they win on, and you focus on the total cost of ownership or long-term implementation, essentially exposing their hidden disadvantages.
Yes.
That is what opinionated means. An AI writing generic copy would never naturally concede a point to a competitor just to win a larger psychological argument. It completely goes against its optimization programming.
It requires strategic empathy.
Yeah.
Recognizing that the buyer is already comparing you to the competitor anyway.
Exactly.
But applying this brings up a very practical operational issue.
Oh, for sure.
We're asking the listener to combine this deep, opinionated, empathetic human expertise with perfectly structured, markdown-ready AI data. How does a modern professional actually accomplish all of this in a standard 8-hour workday?
Yet you are basically asking one person to be a highly creative thought leader and a meticulous data structure at the exact same time. How does the day-to-day workflow actually shift to handle this?
Well, the workflow is moving entirely away from manual execution. We are seeing the rise of what the industry calls growth engineering, combined with AI-assisted workflows.
Here's where it gets really interesting. A growth engineer isn't just someone writing copy or tweaking Facebook ad budgets.
No, not at all.
According to the sources, growth engineers are building custom agents that execute massive workflows. They build a system that scrapes a competitor's ads, analyzes them, generates up to 50 creative variations of their own ads based on that analysis, launches the campaigns, and then automatically pauses the losing ads on a daily basis.
Right. The mindset shift here is moving from executing tasks to designing systems.
Oh,
The engineer defines the parameters and the overarching strategy, and the agent just handles all the heavy lifting. And this philosophy, separating human expertise from manual production, it's fundamentally changing how we write, too. The sources detail this dictation workflow using a tool called Typeless.
I loved this part of the stack. Let me explain the mechanics of this because it's just a brilliant hack.
Please do.
Normally, you sit down, you stare at a blank page, and try to type out an article. But typing forces your brain into editing mode while you are still trying to be creative.
It's the worst friction.
It really is. With Typeless, you have ChatGPT or Claude generate a rough, generic draft based on some simple bullet points. You save that draft, then you read it, hit a hotkey, and just start speaking your feedback out loud.
Just talking to it.
Yeah. You say, hey, this tone is way too formal, make it sound like a conversation at a bar. Oh, and you forgot to mention that crucial context about the Q3 budget cuts. You talk to it like it's a junior assistant sitting right next to you.
It's amazing.
The AI then instantly rewrites the document, applying all your nuanced, opinionated human feedback while preserving the underlying structure.
It basically allows you to inject your expertise at the speed of thought. You completely bypass the manual labor of typing and formatting.
Yeah.
And we see the same separation of expertise from production in B2B content strategies, specifically to solve what the sources call the founder bottleneck.
The podcast first strategy.
Yes, founders have all that deep, opinionated expertise that perfectly bypasses the bland tax, but they generally don't have the time to sit down and write a detailed newsletter every single week.
They're too busy running the company.
Exactly. So you just remove the typing, you let the expert just talk, you record a podcast, and then you use automated AI systems to parse that single audio recording and repurpose it into short-form videos, newsletters, infographics, social posts.
All from one recording.
Right. 1 hour of human speech fuels an entire month of structured content.
Okay, but I have to ask, if growth engineers are spinning up 50 automated ad variations a day and automated systems are endlessly repurposing one podcast into 20 different social posts, aren't we just flooding the zone?
That is the danger, yes.
I mean, we talked about cultural exhaustion and the digital yawn earlier. Doesn't pumping out 50 ad variations a day actively make that problem so much worse?
It absolutely exacerbates the problem if the underlying core message is generic.
Okay.
But the goal of a true growth engineer isn't blind volume. The goal is velocity of learning.
Ah, I see.
The automated system allows you to test those 50 variations to find the single phrasing or image that actually resonates with the human, and it does it infinitely faster than a human ever could manually. The human is still dictating the core opinionated strategy.
The AI is just testing the permutations of that strategy.
Exactly. You use the machine's speed to find the actual human connection.
Okay. So we've optimized our pricing.md pages for the AI agent. We've structured our data. We've used typeless dictation to inject our opinionated expertise, and we've got growth engineers automating the whole workflow.
We're doing it all.
We're doing it all. But eventually, at the very end of all these funnels and algorithms and agents, a real breathing human being still has to pull out a credit card.
Yes, they do.
How do we actually break through the digital noise to reach that final human?
Well, as digital channels become infinitely saturated by AI-generated content, and even highly optimized, opinionated content, physical and highly relevant human touch points become the ultimate premium channels.
This was easily the most surprising stat in the entire stack of newsletters for me.
The Lob data.
Yeah. There's an ebook from Lob mentioned in the sources, and it states that direct mail-like, actual physical paper arriving in a mailbox has a 70% higher recall rate than digital ads.
It's wild, but it makes complete psychological sense when you look at the broader landscape. Well, when digital content is functionally infinite and practically free to produce, it loses all of its signaling power.
Right.
So physical presence suddenly becomes incredibly scarce.
There is a masterclass example of this in the sources from a company called Influ2.
Oh, this campaign was brilliant.
So smart. They were running an account-based marketing campaign targeting very specific high-intent buyers. They didn't just send a generic, beautifully designed email. They actually sent the prospect a physical sizing kit for an Oura Ring in the mail.
And the brilliance of that campaign is that the physical object wasn't just like a random bribe.
Right, it wasn't just swag.
No, it was deeply connected to the core narrative of what they were actually selling.
Exactly how they tied it together is fascinating. Included with the physical sizing kit was a brochure with a QR code. When the prospect scanned the code, it didn't just take them to a boring sales page.
Thank goodness.
It took them to a self-guided walkthrough that explained how biometric signals, which is the exact thing that Oura Ring measures, were similar to tracking buyer intent, which was the software product Influ2 was selling.
Such a smart connection.
It completely reinforced their narrative in a tangible, physical way. And they didn't require a mandatory high-pressure sales meeting to get the ring. They just provided value up front.
That campaign is really the perfect synthesis of everything we've uncovered in these sources today.
It really is.
It used data to find the high-intent buyer, used opinionated design by tying a physical gift directly to their unique product narrative, and it bypassed the digital noise entirely by just showing up on the buyer's physical desk.
Yeah.
And we see the same craving for relevance over cheap digital interactions and customer retention data, too.
The win-back data on returning customers.
Yes. When you look at win-backs, customers who left but came back, the data shows that relevance completely beats discounts.
Which goes against everything we're taught in Marketing 101.
I know. But an analysis of nearly 4,000 companies showed that 45% of win-backs happen within the first 30 days of them leaving. And remarkably, 75% of those returning customers come back at the exact same price point, or even a higher one.
They aren't coming back because you spammed them with a 10% off coupon code.
No.
They're coming back because they realized they actually trusted your product and it provided proven value that the competitor just couldn't match.
Exactly.
It is incredibly ironic. I mean, in a deep dive completely filled with AI search agents reading markdown files and growth engineers spinning up 50 variations a day, the ultimate power move is sending a piece of physical mail or a ring sizing kit in the post. Analog is the ultimate premium channel now.
Because a physical object, or a deeply personalized analog experience, it proves that a human being actually spent time and resources on you. It is a high-status signal of true value that an AI agent simply cannot hallucinate or automate.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? To survive this massive shift, you basically have to operate on two entirely different frequencies at the exact same time.
A delicate balancing act.
It really is.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have to structure your data for the non-human ICP. You need to serve up clear, machine-readable facts and files to avoid the bland tax and make sure the AI agents actually find you in the first place.
Right.
But on the other hand, to win over the actual human, you have to double down on opinionated design, deep experiential expertise, and real-world physical touch points. You have to be perfectly logical for the machine and undeniably human for the buyer.
And, if we look just a little further down the road, there's one final, rather provocative thought to leave you with.
Oh.
We've spent this entire time talking about AI filtering our content and reading our pricing pages so that the human can make the final buying decision.
Right.
But what happens when the buyer's AI agent directly negotiates with the seller's AI agent over price and features? If human UI, human branding, and human emotion are entirely removed from the actual transaction itself, what exactly is the future of marketing?
That is wild. We might not just have personal shoppers who ignore the window displays. We might have personal shoppers negotiating with robotic store clerks while we just wait at home for the delivery.
It's entirely possible.
Something for you to mull over until next time. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
Spoken Tech, for your ears.